Today, Nvidia officially changed the release date, AMD revealed their new little cores, AMD just released a world first along with a monster GPU, and they accidentally revealed their next GPU. Welcome everyone to Gamer Meld. First up for today, it looks like the story I recently covered about Nvidia releasing their RTX 4060 early was correct, as Nvidia themselves recently tweeted out that the RTX 4060 non-TI will be available June 29th at 6 AM Pacific. So clearly that leak was correct, which means Nvidia is planning to only allow review embargoes for their base model cards the day before, with overclock card reviews not coming until the day of. So if you're planning on picking one up the day of release, once again I'd suggest checking those reviews out first. As a quick refresher, the 4060 comes with 3072 CUDA cores, a boost clock of 2.46 GHz, 8 GB of GDDR6, and it comes in at $299. Of course, it'll be interesting to see how it compares to AMD's newest RX 7600, as it's a much cheaper product. Time, as always, will tell. Next up for today, AMD has finally revealed their new little cores. Today's video is sponsored by PowerColor. But first, if you're ready to customize your GPU, look no further than PowerColor's new Devil skins made specifically for their Red Devil 7900 series GPUs. They let you personalize the backplate, which gives it this really unique look without adding a bunch of RGB. Plus, if I do say so myself, they look amazing. What's even better is that they use magnets, which means you can swap them out in seconds. So add some style to your new GPU by visiting the link in the description below. Now back to the story. During an event by AMD, the company took the lid off their long-awaited Bergamo CPUs, their Unreal 128-core 256-thread EPYC processors that's made from their ever-elusive Zen 4C cores. If you remember, just recently I covered a story on these cores that proved to be very accurate. For starters, because Zen 4C cores are so much smaller than Zen 4, AMD was able to include 16 cores per CCD versus EPYC Genoa's 8. The reason we don't have double the cores though is because Bergamo only has 8 CCDs while Genoa has 12. As you can see here, each Zen 4C core with its L2 cache takes up 2.48mm squared, while Zen 4 takes up 3.84mm squared, so it's 35% smaller while on the same process node. As far as the individual CPUs, AMD announced 3, the EPYC 9734, 9754S, and 9754. The 9734 model comes with 112 cores and 224 threads with a base clock of 2.2 GHz and a boost of 3. The 9754S and 9754 are the same, except the S variant doesn't include multi-threading, so it's a 128-core, 128-thread CPU. The 9754, on the other hand, is the full 128-core, 256-thread part with a base clock of 2.25 GHz and a boost of 3.1. Each CPU comes with 256 MB of L3 cache, 12 DDR5 channels, 128 PCI Express Gen 5 lanes, and a TDP from 320 to 400 watts. Ultimately, AMD's Bergamo is made for workloads that need a ton of cores, but they're almost certainly planning to bring it to Ryzen for a big dot little design like Intel, so it's definitely going to be interesting to see how well this performs. And next up, AMD has officially released a world-first APU, as well as a new monster GPU. Starting things off, we have their new APU. It's called the Instinct MI300A, and it's the world's first APU for AI and HPC workloads. And let's just say it's no joke. The new APU comes with 24 Zen 4 cores along with CDNA 3 cores and a whopping 128 GB of HBM3 memory that can be shared between the CPU and GPU. This gives the MI300A a whopping 8 times more AI performance over the MI250X and 5 times AI performance per watt. Now, some of this you likely saw at CES with the MI300, but they actually split the MI300 into 2 separate parts. This MI300A, which is now sampling, and the newly announced MI300X, which takes out the 3 CPU chiplets on the MI300A and replaces them with 2 GPU chiplets for a total of 8. And this bad boy is insane. We're talking an unreal 153 billion transistors, 192 gigabytes of HBM3 memory for a 5.2 terabytes of memory bandwidth. And while AMD didn't announce it, some outlets are claiming that it has an unreal 304 CUs, which is over 3 times that of the 7900 XTX. Of course, this is a completely different architecture, so you couldn't game on these or anything like that. In fact, it's clearly made to go up against Nvidia's H100 GPU. They even released their own Instinct platform with 8 MI300X GPUs, which is clearly made to challenge Nvidia's DGX H100. And while they didn't show off any benchmarks comparing it to Nvidia's newest H100, AMD did discuss the fact that it has 2.4 times the HBM density and 1.6 times the bandwidth. This lets you run large language models like Falcon 40B on one GPU. At the end of the day, we'll have to wait for benchmarks, but AMD's new APU and GPU are seriously impressive. The MI300X will begin sampling in Q3. Lastly for today, it looks like AMD mistakenly revealed their next GPU. During a video that was actually shared by Forbes a couple weeks ago, they showed a B-roll of a few chips. And only just recently, someone discovered that one of those chips is of an unreleased GPU. More specifically, it's a Navi 32 GPU, which should be going in AMD's upcoming RX 7800. According to video cards, the GPU measures perfectly what's been rumored for months now. The GCD or graphics die measures around 200mm squared, while the whole thing with the 4 MCD dies measures around 350mm squared. So yes, that means it's an MCM GPU like the 7900 XT and XTX. And this means AMD definitely has it, and Igor's lab actually tested what is essentially a simulated 7800 XT. He basically took AMD's new Pro W7800, which is very close to the rumored specs of the 7800 XT, changed a few things around, and tested it in quite a few games. As you can see, it's only 4% faster than the 6800 XT at 1080p, 8% faster at 1440p, and 12% faster at 4K. So I will say that it's definitely nothing that big. As Igor's lab mentioned, AMD would likely be cannibalized by their older products, and according to him, they currently have an overstock of their last gen cards. So maybe AMD is waiting until the right move, though I have to admit, it doesn't look all that impressive. So while that does it for today, what do you think about AMD's new massive APU? And what about that new GPU? Let me know down in the comments below. And don't forget to check out PowerColor's new Devil skins in the description below. And as always, have a great day.